Very good evening. You're watching the Urban Debate. I'm Arfida Rahaman Ali. Of course, it's a tense situation here in Maharashtra. As the time race is on, suspense is on as well in Maharashtra politics. It looks like a wait-and-watch situation even now. Well, today, Maharashtra CM Uddhav Thackeray addressed the people of the state and in an emotional speech, sent a message across to the rebel MLAs, asking them to face him and say it up front that they need a change in leadership. He says, I'm ready to resign if only you would come in front of me and ask me to do so. The speech was more about his leadership, his chief ministership, how he is a reluctant to CM and how he is ready to give up his chair since he has no lust for power. Those were the words of Uddhav Thackeray. He says repeatedly during that address that come in front of me and tell me that you do not need me as your leader and I will step down. On the other hand, Eknath Shinde is also gathering some numbers in Guwahati. What we see now is that uncertainty continues to loom large. The fate of the Maharashtra government hangs in the balance. We are watching all the developments very closely. Let's quickly take you through the possible scenarios. What is scenario number one? Shinde camp needs 37 Sena MLAs, mind you, not independents, but all Shiv Sena MLAs to avert anti-defection law, in which case they may then consider the option of merging with the BJP. Together, they can stake claim to form government. The second scenario, which is a slightly unlikely scenario right now, is Uddhav Thackeray agreeing to Eknath Shinde's condition to ally with the BJP. Uddhav steps down as the CM of Maharashtra and manages to save the party from breaking down. That is another option. And of course, then Shinde possibly offered the post of deputy CM. The third scenario, will the Shiv Sena manage to assuage the rebel MLAs? At the moment, we've just in fact broken this information that one proposal being considered to offer Eknath Shinde the post of the CM, if that is what it would take to bring the rebels back into the fold. Is that something that Mr. Shinde would consider? Remember, he is a Shiv Sena strongman, he's a grassroots leader, and of course, with political ambitions as well. Let's look at the next scenario. Shiv Sena may expel Eknath Shinde for dissident activities. Other rebel MLAs may return, which means a breakaway in the breakaway faction, which will save the Uddhav government. Is that a likely scenario? Something we will discuss during the course of the program. And also, of course, Shinde camp pacified and coming back to the fold and block, and it's business as usual. Can that happen? Well, we will also, of course, have to see what follows later. If MVA loses the trust vote, of course, the government would be dissolved. The centre may have to impose president's rule. The state could head for mid-term polls. So that's another possibility at the moment. So we will, of course, have a discussion with our panelists this evening. But before all of that, let's listen in to what Uddhav Thackeray said in his address earlier this evening.
मी तुमच्या हातामध्ये आज मी माझ्या राजीनाम्याचं पत्र तयार करून ठेवतो आहे. जे आमदार गायब आहेत किंवा त्याने गायब केलेले आहे त्यांनी यावं आणि माझे राजीनाम्याचं पत्र घेऊन राजभवनमध्ये जावं. ज्या शिवसैनिकांना असं वाटत असेल की मी शिवसेनेचं नेतृत्व करायला नालायक आहे, चला मला सांगा, मी हेही पद सोडायला तयार आहे.
My colleagues Ketan Vaidya, Shweta and Abhishek joining me here on the program. Let me go across to Abhishek, who's reporting from Guwahati first. Abhishek, you broke this information the last time I spoke to you that more MLAs are being flown in. So are we to believe that Mr. Shinde's numbers are only increasing and his initial claim earlier today that he has 46 might actually not be totally unbelievable?
Yes, definitely, as we broke earlier also, and the confidence level of Eknath Shinde continues to grow because as we are reporting constantly since morning, and remember, definitely MLAs are coming here, but also he is in touch over the phone and with the MLAs that are also in Mumbai, around 12 to 13 MLAs which of the Uddhav Thackeray camp are in Mumbai, and also they are in touch with Eknath Shinde. That's what we are coming to know from the sources. And some of them have also, are not reachable. Gulabrao Patil, one of the minister, is what we are coming to know from the sources, is not reachable. So definitely confidence level of Eknath Shinde when it comes to the number of MLAs supporting him is constantly growing when it comes to Shiv Sena MLA as well as the independent MLA. And as far as the emotional appeal of Uddhav Thackeray is concerned, he made a clear statement, definitely come and speak to us personally and let's settle all the disputes. And he also indirectly told that he would be happy to give give away the chief minister post to a Shiv Sainik. So that is a line. It's an indirect, telling to Eknath Shinde that you come and let's sort out dispute and you become the chief minister, and all other differences like related to portfolio allotment and very other coordination issue between NCP and the Congress, everything can be sorted out, but don't take this uncertain move to topple the government. And that's the reason, because we were told that at 7 p.m. a press conference will be happening by Eknath Shinde, but a strategy, a discussion is being held besides this hotel Radisson Blu, where Eknath Shinde along with the Sena as well as independent MLA are camping, and they are looking out of the strategy what reply should be given to the chief minister emotional appeal. And let me tell you one last point. Everything is happening under the supervision of BJP, and that's the very crucial point, because after the emotional appeal there might be some soft corner of Eknath Shinde towards Uddhav Thackeray, but BJP is reluctant on their stand because the entire thing is happening under their umbrella. So definitely we will have to wait and watch what stand next Eknath Shinde takes. Back to you.
Abhishek, and yes, you rightly pointed out, we were hoping Mr. Shinde will make an address, but it seems he is engaged in a conversation right now with the other rebel MLAs. He is going to take a very considered opinion on this after hearing out Uddhav Thackeray. So let me get in Ketan on this point. Ketan, after Uddhav Thackeray's address, Mr. Shinde, it seems, is going through a rethink. Do you agree that the option of taking the CM's post is something that he might consider and get back into the fold?
Frida, I am standing right outside the CM's residence, and you can see there is heavy bandobast here after Uddhav Thackeray's emotional and fervent appeal that he is not vying for power, and he is going to leave his official residence, that is Varsha, based on which is located near a picturesque hill near Malabar Hill. It's a posh locality in Mumbai. Now, will Eknath Shinde do a rethink? See, as much I have read about Sena, as much I have covered Sena and followed the party, this is a party that runs on emotion. For all those who are saying that it is as simple as Uddhav Thackeray CM Uddhav Thackeray stepping down and Eknath Shinde taking charge. No, this is not how Shiv Sena functions. Defections are not something that are new to the party. In the 90s, it was a very powerful leader like Chhagan Bhujbal who left the party. Shiv Sena still survived. Narayan Rane left the party. Shiv Sena still survived. Raj Thackeray left the party. Shiv Sena still survived. And it is because the direct relation of the Thackeray family with the cadre. It's the cadre-based party, and even Shiv Sena's voters vote for the bow and arrow symbol and all the optics and the philosophy that Shiv Sena stands for, of the Marathi identity or of the Hindutva, the kind of Hindutva that Uddhav Thackeray espouses. So clearly, in front of him, he wouldn't allow anyone else, even if it's a powerful leader like Shinde, to become a chief minister. I don't think it is just a figment of imagination or something that maybe BJP rumor mills have spread, but clearly it could be possible that if this rebellion is indeed successful, and if Eknath Shinde gets the magic figure of 37 MLAs to have the rebel camp, then that rebel camp will be authorized. They will steer clear of the anti-defection law, and that's how Eknath Shinde could become CM. I don't see that Uddhav Thackeray would agree for Eknath Shinde as a CM to just keep the flock together.
Okay,
See,
all right.
the first optic that we are going to see in a while with this bandobast in place is he leaving his house tomorrow. He's moving to Matoshri, and I'm sure the common Shiv Senics will gather, and it will be a very emotional movement for the party. So
that's a big update
he's
again,
playing on emotion,
and let me just
he's playing on
reiterate
the
for our
character of
viewers,
party,
Ketan, what we are
and I don't
talking about here is Uddhav Thackeray leaving the Varsha bungalow, the official residence, and going to Matoshri. That itself will send out a message from Uddhav Thackeray, and like you said, his speech was an emotional one, and the decisions, the movements that he's making, the moves that he's taking at this point are again emotional messages that are being sent out, and that is how Ketan is saying it works with the Shiv Sena. Coming to you, Shweta, interesting that there was a meeting again between Sharad Pawar, Supriya Sule and Uddhav Thackeray. It seems Mr. Thackeray is relying a lot on the advice of Mr. Pawar and literally operating under his tutelage. What transpired in that meeting?
Well, this is how the Agadi government was formed in the year 2019. Now, remember, when we speak about Sharad Pawar, he is the troubleshooter. In fact, with all his strategies, with all his formulation, we have seen the impossible turning into possibility as the coalition government of three parties, which were never thought before, could unite together and make the Agadi government. And now when the Agadi government is going through the crisis, they are again going back to their support system. That's Mr. Sharad Pawar, and we have seen since morning there have been series of meetings taking place. And just after YB Chauhan, where the meeting was conducted at least for 8 hours, Sharad Pawar left for Varsha Bungalow, and with Sharad Pawar there was Supriya Sule, Jayant Patil and Jitendra Awad, the prominent leaders from NCP. Remember, after this, Nana Patole also went inside. Now, Varsha Bungalow being the epicenter of all the movements. In fact, it is quite dynamic that all the cars going inside, having a brief meeting with CM Uddhav Thackeray. At this point of given time, we are also understanding that Gulab Rao Patil, who was spotted yesterday near Varsha Bungalow, is not reachable now. This is quite surprising, but yeah, this is how we term politics, is all about this. And overall, if we just gist it up for our viewers, it has been seen that a high action taking place. But of course, people are relied on Sharad Pawar if he comes out with any kind of formulation to save the government, to survive the Agadi government.
Right. Shweta, Ketan and Abhishek, thank you so much for joining us here this evening with the latest updates on this developing situation. Thanks very much. Let me go across to our panelists joining us here this evening. Karan Verma, author; Namit Saxena, advocate and political analyst; Aashutosh Srivastav, who is an advocate of the Supreme Court; Sundar Balakrishna, political analyst; MC Abbas, political analyst; and Rohit Kashyap, who is a leader of the Shiv Sena. I want to begin, of course, with Mr. Rohit Kashyap. On the point of what the Shiv Sena is going through right now, you clearly have two camps, even though many experts are now saying that numbers are stacking up in favor of Eknath Shinde. What is the future of your party? What is the future of MVA government? Mr. Rohit Kashyap, can you hear me? आप मुझे बताएंगे आप क्या? All right, I'm extremely sorry for that. I think we are not connected to Mr. Kashyap yet. Let me go across to MC Abbas. Mr. Abbas, good evening. My question to you is the same, that at this point, numbers are stacking up in favor of Mr. Shinde. He has already presented a resolution letter with 34 signatures. If that is the kind of depletion from the MVA, there is an imminent collapse of the Uddhav Thackeray government that we are looking at.
Arfida ji, as the saying goes, there's this beautiful share which goes like this, in terms of the political bravado that we see of Eknath Shinde. Ibtidai siyasat hai, rota hai kya, aage aage dekh hota hai kya. You know, one thing I've learned it very closely whenever there's a political crisis in any state. I come from the state of Karnataka. So whenever I see such horse trading taking place or a chief minister needs to step down, we need to understand that there is a different dimensional game which is already taking place. We need to understand here what is amiss. We see a Shiv Sena which is going strong. Now Eknath Shinde coming up with his own bank of rebel MLAs. And now Uddhav Thackeray hasn't been able to keep the fold ahead. We need to read the lines between here. The lines between here I read is through my Twitter friends of the BJP who are already hailing Devendra Fadnavis as a new age Chanakya, the one coming from the feet of Amit Shah, saying that the CBI EDIT is being used. They're also using all it takes to get the MLAs from the Shiv Sena camp along with them. Why so? This is a certain revenge, a vengeance of politics. And as we know, in the world of politics, we always see that anything is possible. Like we understand, it ain't over till it's over. But yes, I do see a certain fighting spirit from Uddhav Thackeray, which is indeed missing. I think Uddhav Thackeray can do so much more, being the flag bearer coming from the house of Bal Thackeray. Also, as a matter of fact, we need to understand who is keeping silent and watching the guns. It is the BJP camps which are already set with their celebrations to take off this Mahavikas Aghadi and come back with strong numbers. And we do know that Eknath Shinde is not really a CM figure. But of course, watch out for my words and mark my tweet which is coming through. Eknath Shinde is going to set up a ploy along with Devendra Fadnavis. Very shortly, you will hear the Bharatiya Janata Party coming back with a very strong, now what do we call this? Asli Shiv Sena or Nakli Shiv Sena? Or should I align it as Shiv Sena U belonging to Uddhav Thackeray or Shiv Sena E of the Eknath Shinde? So this is turning out to be, like they say, this is the Maha Mutiny in Maharashtra. The Mahanataka in Karnataka has begun. And let me tell you, this is turning out to be quite a catapult in the Indian politics that nothing is permanent. There's something called, there are no permanent friends, no permanent enemies. Because in politics, when a Mahavikas Aghadi, a Congress and Shiv Sena could come together, why not a rebel Shiv Sena along with the BJP party?
Yes,
We
yes.
also need to understand here, this game has been there for a long time.
This game has been on for a long time. There's no doubt about that. But Karan Verma, please respond. It's not over till it's over. And I want you to also respond to the point that Mr. Abbas was making on whether Mr. Fadnavis is closely watching all of this. As it is, we have seen the team, the choice of location for Shiv Sena MLAs, first Surat, then Guwahati, both BJP-ruled states. There is a strong possibility now, you think, that Eknath Shinde camp of Shiv Sena will merge with the BJP or join BJP and stake claim to form government?
Look, Eknath Shinde has actually done an Uddhav Thackeray on Uddhav Thackeray. This is, karma hitting you back as fast and as hard as it comes. 3 years back, when Uddhav Thackeray formed this alliance, the Mahavikas Aghadi, he compromised on his basic principles. The Shiv Sena is known to have an iron-tight grip on its cadres. And it's really sad to see what Shiv Sena of today has become. It has become a pale shadow of its former self. And why has it become so? Because they have completely compromised on their core ideology. They joined hands with parties which, they had stinging criticisms against those parties. And they joined hands with them. Today, when we see Uddhav Thackeray and when we see him demoralized, dispirited, we realize that in the end, as cold and as calculated politics might be, somewhere your core ideology, your convictions matter. And when you desert them, people desert you. Your cadre stops respecting you. Your MLAs stop falling in line with you. It's a sad commentary on the times we live in. Because the fact is, whether it was Bihar, when two diametrically opposite political ideologies came together in JDU and RJD, fact is such ideologies don't last the distance. So it's a sad commentary, but I see the writing on the wall. I think Uddhav Thackeray should make a graceful exit, because otherwise he will be, as unfortunate for him as it may be, he will be booted out of power. Of course, Devendra Fadnavis is keeping a close eye. Let's not forget, the BJP is a brute force. They are a well-oiled electoral machine. As a citizen, if you ask me, I am not very happy. I am not very happy to see these political machinations go the way they are going. I would like to see polls, because none of these parties today have the moral authority to govern. After all, where is the people's mandate in this? It has come down to who manages the MLAs better, who manages the floor house better. It's not the kind of politics
Absolutely, I agree with that. This is the sad reality we are living with, and no one is even bothering to think about how governance suffers in all of this. This is a turf war. It's an ugly fight for power and position. Do you agree with that? Rohit Kashyap, I want to come to you. आपसे मैं जानना चाहूंगी कि इस वक्त जो हम देख रहे हैं, शिव सेना दो हिस्सों में बट चुके हैं, और ये अभी आपसे पहले जो बोल रहे थे करण वर्मा जी, ये कह रहे हैं कि you've become a pale shadow of what you used to be. It's a sad situation for the Shiv Sena to be in this, to be seen in this manner. Rohit Kashyap, can you hear me? Is Rohit Kashyap with us? Huh. I'm not sure if Mr. Kashyap is... Mr. Kashyap, आपसे जानना चाहूंगी, आपको क्या लगता है अभी फिलहाल की जो स्थिति है, पार्टी की क्या फ्यूचर रहेगी इसमें, और एमवीए सरकार की, आघाड़ी सरकार का क्या फ्यूचर होगा?
दरअसल मैं मेरे नाव को जितने भी भाई बंधु हैं सबको मैं अपना नमस्कार करना चाहता हूं। और जैसे कि कहा जा रहा है कि शिवसेना दो भागों में बंट चुकी है, तो शिवसेना दो भागों में बंटना और ना बंटना तो एक अलग विषय हो जाता है, क्योंकि जब तक के राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी का कोई आदेश नहीं आता है तब तक के कहा जाए जितनी भी पार्टियां हैं, या कहा जाए बीजेपी है, या कहा जाए कांग्रेस है, सब में ही कुछ ना कुछ सपा है, सब में कुछ ना कुछ छोटी छोटी दिक्कतें आती रहती है। इनकेस शिवसेना का जो कहा जाए अगर प्रॉब्लम क्रिएट है, तो प्रॉब्लम कहीं नहीं है, सिर्फ और सिर्फ कहा जाए सिर्फ बातों का समझने का ही फेर है। साफ साफ राष्ट्राध्यक्ष जी ने ये भी कह रखा है कि देखिए मैं 3 महीने से बेड पे था, मेरे को कोई किसी प्रकार से मिलने का नहीं था, और यही समस्या उनको पड़ी है। और आज भी उन्होंने यही बात कही है कि मैं बेड पे था, और बेड के जो मेरा ऑपरेशन था उस वजह से मैं नहीं लोगों से मिल पा रहा था, और ना मिल पाने की वजह से ये मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग्स पैदा हुई है।
आपको लगता है ये मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग है? आपको लगता है कि ये हर पार्टी में होता है और ये कोई बहुत बड़ी बात नहीं है, दूसरी पार्टियों में भी इस तरह के जो है डिफरेंसेस होते हैं, बट क्या ये मुमकिन है कि एकनाथ शिंदे जी घर लौटेंगे, महाराष्ट्र वापस लौटेंगे और सामने बैठ के उद्धव ठाकरे जी से बात करेंगे? बिकॉज जो मुख्यमंत्री का यही अपील है कि सारे जो नेता है, रेबल नेता है, वो वापस आए और सामने से बोले। क्या ये मुमकिन है?
देखिए मैं आपको बता दूं कि जिस समय बाला साहब ठाकरे जी जीवित थे, तो उस वक्त भी एकनाथ शिंदे जी का जो शिवसेना पार्टी के लिए अहम रोल था वो हमेशा बरकरार रहा है। और एकनाथ शिंदे जी क्या उनके साथ साथ जितने भी विधायक हैं वो भी, उनका भी कहा जाए बहुत अच्छे से रवैया शिवसेना के प्रति व कहा जाए हमारे जो राष्ट्र अध्यक्ष हैं उनके प्रति रहा है। ये क्या समस्या आ रही है, क्या प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, जो कहा जाए थोड़ा सा भ्रमित मुझे लग रहा है कि थोड़ा सा भ्रमित टाइप के हो चुके हैं, कहा जाए ये भी दूर हो जाएगा, क्योंकि राष्ट्र प्रमुख का आज सीधे सीधे कहा जाए अगर लोगों के प्रति बात करना और समझाना विधायकों को, शिंदे जी को, तो कहीं ना कहीं उनको भी ये बात घर कर जाएगी और चोट कर जाएगी। आगे आके बात वो करें तभी हल निकलेगा।
Okay, this is a very important news that we are going to share with our viewers. Now there is a tweet coming from Eknath Shinde. Now this is in direct response to Uddhav Thackeray. We will bring that in shortly, but let me take opening comments from the others as well. Namit Saxena, if you can weigh in. Okay, there's the breaking news on your screens right now. This is what Eknath Shinde is saying, that in the last 2.5 years, MVA government benefited only the constituent parties and the Shiv Senics were overwhelmed. The constituent parties, referring to NCP and the Congress, it seems what Mr. Shinde is saying here, that the Shiv Senics were left sidelined. The constituent parties are getting stronger and Shiv Sena is getting systematically embezzled. It is essential to get out of the unnatural front for the survival of the party and the Shiv Senics. Decisions need to be taken in the interest of Maharashtra. He also says that in all of this, in all of the tenure of the MVA government, the other parties have benefited. The Shiv Senics have got a raw deal. So that, it seems, makes it very clear. Karan Verma, this is Eknath Shinde's way of saying that there is this is a point of no return, you think?
I think if he had to return, he would have not gone so public about it. And there have been lots of overtures towards Eknath Shinde. Let's not forget, a couple of emissaries were also sent across to his hotel. But Eknath Shinde has gone too far and he's at a point of no return. And he has had this plan for quite some time. This is precisely what happened with Himanta Biswa Sarma, if we have to look for precedents in the past. And there was no returning for Himanta Biswa Sarma, and he went on to strike a deal and become the CM eventually. So I don't know what Eknath Shinde will get out of it, but he's surely not going to strike a deal with Uddhav Thackeray. Uddhav Thackeray has cut out a very sorry figure for himself. I'll say this. My friend from Shiv Sena was mentioning this would have not happened in Bala Sahab's time. Of course it would have not happened, because he commanded a certain respect, a stature within the cadre. When you lose touch with your core ideology, people stop respecting you. People respect you for your choices in politics. When you choose partners you've condemned vocally in the past, then people desert you, and this is precisely what's happening here.
Sundar Balakrishnan, how would you respond to that? This is, again, a big update that we are sharing here on the program, that Eknath Shinde has responded to the overtures made by Uddhav Thackeray, and he says that this particular configuration of the NCP, the Congress and the Shiv Sena does not suit them, and therefore there is no question of return. Is that what you are also reading from the statement?
Arfida, the statement that is given by the Eknath Shinde, I don't know whether that is the voice of the other MLAs whom he has with him. The letter which he has put on the media saying that it has been signed by all the MLAs, I seriously doubt those numbers. I seriously doubt those numbers because it's very huge. And if he is not going to achieve the 37 magic figure, I think he is in doldrums. Okay? And the most important thing is, he has put a condition saying that Uddhav Thackeray has to unfold himself and he has to withdraw the support from Congress and NCP. That is very highly unlikely in the current scenario. Now, Uddhav Thackeray has played his card very well emotionally. Now, is it possible for Eknath Shinde to come and take the CM chair? That is the big question. And if you talk of the other MLAs who have gone there, the number that is floating around since yesterday has been wavering from 25 to 45. And these numbers, nobody is sure what is the real number. If you talk of the current number, which is 31, which all the media is putting around, in that, I don't know how many of them have really signed and who are standing by Eknath Shinde.
Okay, so you are not convinced with the numbers that Mr. Shinde is showing, and you are also saying that his statement is what he is speaking for himself. You are not sure whether he represents all of those other MLAs. They may have a different view. Aashutosh Srivastav, the point of the matter is, it comes down to the numbers, isn't it? Constitutionally now, there is an anti-defection law which may come into play. What are the scenarios you think that can play out from here on, given the numbers that you see on the side of Mr. Shinde and on the side of Uddhav Thackeray?
Law basically has two exceptions in it. The one exception is that when two parties are merging together, then the provisions of this anti-defection law will not apply. And the second one is that if at least 2/3 of the elected members of the party are leaving the party and if they are joining some other party, then in that case also the provisions of this anti-defection law will not apply. Now in this particular case, as we know that Shiv Sena is having around 55 seats there. They have around 55 elected MLAs. So if we take 2/3 of it, should be somewhere 34. So if 34 of them, or maybe more than that, if they are leaving the party and joining some other party, then the anti-defection laws will not apply in that case. However, if it is less than that, then the anti-defection laws will apply. And in that case, the Speaker of the Legislative Assembly will have all the powers as a presiding officer to disqualify such kind of MLAs. But if the numbers are less than 2/3 of the total MLAs of a particular party, they, only in that case it can happen. And obviously, as we know that the anti-defection laws apply where some of the members, some of the elected members, they leave a party, and if they join some other party, or also in the case when they are voting against the party, if there is any bill being introduced in either in parliament or in legislative assembly, if they are going against the party's principle, then also these anti-defection laws will apply. So as asked by you, in this particular case, it will depend on the numbers of the elected MLAs who are leaving the party. If it is more than 34, that is 2/3 of the total party MLAs, then this will not apply. But if it is less, then yes, the Speaker will have the powers to disqualify such members. And we know that there have been many judgments also passed by Supreme Court on different occasions, in which the Supreme Court has said that generally what happens that if the Speaker belongs to a particular party, can try to favor that particular party. And in that case, whatever decision is being taken by the Speaker can also be challenged before the higher judicial authorities. And the court will take interference in those kind of cases. The Supreme Court last year has also suggested that a tribunal can be formed, and this tribunal should be filled up with retired judges of the High Court or the Supreme Court, who should hear these kind of issues related to anti-defection laws in the country. So as we know, in the past also, many such defections have taken place. In 1967, as we know that one Mr. Gaya had left the party thrice in one day, and thereafter the party felt that there should be some anti-defection laws to be introduced, and it took around 17-18 years to make those laws, and the same was made in 1985. Now, thereafter, the Supreme Court has also made it very clear that even when the defection laws are in place, but there are requirement that it should be made somewhat more stricter. And to make it more stricter, the court came up with different kind of suggestions from time to time. And as we know, in 2003 also, there was an amendment. Before that, even 1/3 of the total elected members of a political party could join some other party, and there was no application of anti-defection laws. And in 2003, this amendment took place, and this rule was deleted.
But nothing is stopping parties, from breaking up in this manner. It has happened before. It continues to happen. The law itself has not proven to be a deterrent, isn't it? Namit Saxena, what is the possible scenario you are looking at? There's one scenario which we brought out, which perhaps now will have to be eliminated after Eknath Shinde's response, that we are not going back to the current configuration of Shiv Sena, NCP and Congress. Do you rule out the possibility entirely of Mr. Shinde returning to the fold? And if we eliminate that option, what is the next option? What is the next scenario?
Eknath Shinde to take a call whether he wants to go back from 1. But assuming that he does not go back, democracy, as we are discussing, is a game of numbers. May I correct Srivastava, because the 2/3 of 55 would be 37 rather than 24. So 37 is the magic number in this case. Now what will happen is, in case Eknath Shinde has support of 37 MLAs from Shiv Sena, that is from that particular party, then the anti-defection law does not apply to him. So in that case, he can go to the governor and say that I am a different, a political unit as such.
Yes.
And because, so in case, we have sufficient majority, let there something which is known as a floor test, where the governor calls up everybody on the floor that, prove majority, whosoever has the mandate of the people with the numbers can form a government, is one option in case he does not go back. Now, another option can be, because if he passes the muster of anti-defection law with 37 Shiv Sena MLAs, he can go and say that, that we want to join BJP as a political outfit, and therefore, because the number of seats in Maharashtra is 288, so half of that 144 is the magic number to form the government there. And BJP already has mandate of 106 seats. So 106 plus 37 will be somewhere around 143. So plus 1 or 2 independents, so they can form a government with BJP also. So that is, the political.
Is that the most likely option? Are you betting for that option now? Looking more plausible and possible at the moment, given the current scenario, given that we've already heard from Mr. Thackeray and from Mr. Shinde, and Mr. Shinde is not in any way relenting. He seems unrelenting in his position. What is the most likely scenario, Mr. Saxena?
Out the possibility of forming government with BJP also, because as Mr. Verma also pointed out, see, BJP is a brute force. They are trained electorally. They have a very good army, to serve their electoral purposes. So we can't rule out possibilities. Also, they have been shifting from Gujarat to Guwahati. That is again, under the ruling establishment of BJP again. So we can't rule out the possibility. But again, democracy again, I'll say, is a game of numbers. So whosoever has those numbers, has the mandate. So this, as Mr. Srivastava pointed out, the Ayaram Gayaram politics of 1967, that has, completely changed itself with the mandate going with the numbers completely. So it is, like, if it passes the muster of anti-defection law, then all possibilities are open.
There is a suspense around number of things, but there is no suspense around one point, and that is with the signatures that Mr. Shinde is displaying. It has 34 signatures. The 2 of them apparently are independent MLAs, so they will not count when it comes to this whole calculation over anti-defection. But even so, the depletion of anything more than 20 from the current figure that MVA enjoys means that the Uddhav Thackeray government will fall. MC Abbas, is that something that we can perhaps say with certainty now after hearing all the sides?
The fact of the matter here is that, this is turning out to be a completely pragmatic politics. Whatever works in your favor. One thing we understand, especially looking at Indian politics, what is taking place in Maharashtra, not just now, even back then, that baap bada na bhaiya, sabse bada rupaya, rupaya se badi kursi. And today we certainly do see that these politicians can do anything and everything in all their might to form a government to get into the power. One of the panelists made a very important point, and that is Maharashtra had a fractured mandate. There was not one single largest party with the majority number of seats or having the magic number to form. Therefore, it was seen as a BJP and a Shiv Sena alliance coming through. But what happened? It was Uddhav Thackeray who had these very hidden dreams of having a Shiv Sena chief minister. So therefore, with Uddhav Thackeray coming in, saying goodbye to BJP, and then Sharad Pawar coming through with a Mahavikas Aghadi, doing the impossible or doing the never imagined before, having a series of meetings with Sonia Gandhi, who was strict against this alliance, nevertheless, stitching up a coup of sorts so that the power could come through. But like it was said earlier, today the karma is such that you will see it not just in a 5-year term, but within a year or two. The fact of the matter here we need to understand is Operation Kamala is on, Operation Lotus is on. Those who are saying that they're just watching things happening are not the ones. They are the ones who have slightly lit the match and they are watching it go, all guns blazing. The fact of the matter today, in Eknath Shinde, who was nobody when it comes to the politics of the National Front, now people are learning about him being a very strong henchman and grassroots leader. So that coming through this, you need to give the points where it belongs. Devendra Fadnavis, who previously in his press conferences said that this is not going to last, was a sort of a prophecy which came through. He was looking at the Shiv Sena, that Shiv Sena of Balasaheb Thackeray, which seemed to be of a brute force, slowly coming together through. So he identified.
So you are making a point. Let's be very clear, MC Abbas. Are you saying that Mr. Shinde is being used as a pawn by the BJP? BJP is playing Mr. Shinde and it has worked. And that is how you see this scenario. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely,
from
Arfida
whatever
ji.
the points that you've made.
Absolutely, Arfida ji, you've read it right. Devendra Fadnavis over the last couple of years was very instrumental in reading the grounds of the Shiv Sena. He could have broken. It was quite impossible for him to break a Congress because the Congress would never ally with the BJP, or it is not possible to,
So there were
in the
enough
presence of a Sharad Pawar,
vulnerabilities
to break him
within
through.
the MVA for the BJP to play with. Let's at least agree with that, because this was, of course, a configuration of three different parties being stitched together with diverse ideologies. And for the BJP and its shrewd maneuver, this wasn't a tough game at all. Would you agree, Karan Verma? Do you also concede that somewhere this is being orchestrated by the BJP? And some of it is, of course, visible. The fact that you have them camping in Guwahati, prior to that in Surat. My colleagues are telling me that BJP is, of course, presiding over all of this. We had Mr. Himanta Biswa Sharma leaving the hotel at 5 a.m. in the morning, ensuring there is enough security. Why is all this happening? Is this all the masterminded by the BJP? Mr. Karan Verma,
as harsh as it may sound, one's weakness becomes the other's strength. Yeah. One's weakness becomes the other's strength in politics. That's how it is. They prey on the other person's weaknesses, and they had too many chinks in their armor, the Mahavikas Aghadi. And BJP, as I've reiterated in the past, they prey on the other person's weakness and they go about it full hog. There was a fertile ground for them when Shiv Sena absolutely deserted their own core ideology, when they did a flip-flop on CAA, when they continued to have an alliance with Congress, who hurled insult after insult to Veer Damodar Savarkar. All these things were piling up and BJP was trying to encash on that. So there was always this ideological carrot which was hanging there, and of course there was this layer of getting back in the BJP fold, which is a central political force.
So you're saying this is sweet
BJP
revenge.
has used all its machinations,
let's say
all
it
its
in that many
maneuvers
words.
to
This
the
is
optimum.
sweet revenge for Mr. Fadnavis?
Oh,
Is that what
absolutely.
you're
This
saying?
is sweet revenge served cold.
Okay, Sundar
absolutely.
Balakrishna.
This is sweet
BJP
revenge
has
served
managed to
cold by Mr.
avenge what
Fadnavis.
happened in 2019. It has managed to wrestle back power in Maharashtra. Again, how it happened is all before us, but we may argue about how, these kind of, some would say unconstitutional methods deployed, horse trading happening, money power playing, election machinery, political machinery being very well oiled, and therefore nothing unexpected. But can you blame another party for what has happened within the Shiv Sena? Here you have Eknath Shinde coming out and saying the exact reasons why he is upset. There's a deviation from the original Shiv Sena is what he believes. He believes his members, the Shiv Seniks, were shortchanged. They're feeling cheated and sidelined, whereas NCP and Congress have got a larger share of the pie.
One saying on the Twitter, MLA बिकने गुजरात जाते हैं क्योंकि बोरी लगाने वाला वहां से आते हैं. Okay, this was the thing which I was reading on the Twitter. Why these people will have to only go to Gujarat, and from Gujarat they have to go to Assam? See, people like us, we know who's behind the scene. Now, if you know, the majority of the MLAs are from north of Maharashtra and also from Marathwada. You know, there is a senior BJP leader who is from Marathwada. And according to your information, there are 3 or 4 MLAs who have gone along with him to Assam, to Surat, and from there they will go to Assam. Now, BJP is playing their cards very well, but let me tell you, they will fail miserably, because in this case, Eknath Shinde will not be able to garner the 37 magic figure, because all the MLAs in Mumbai are well intact and they are with Uddhav Thackeray.
How many are there with Uddhav Thackeray, Mr. Balakrishnan, as per your information? How many are still there with Mr. Thackeray?
According to me, 22 to 23 are with Uddhav Thackeray. Now, if you are going to talk of the 31 MLAs who are there of Shiv Sena with Eknath Shinde, I cannot agree with the figure of 31, because the whole lot of 31 cannot go en bloc. And
No,
it
there
cannot
are
happen overnight.
Mr. Balakrishnan, there are photographs available. This is not anecdotal evidence.
Afrida, you have
There
to
are
accept one thing.
enough
Photograph.
and more reporters on ground who are talking
Af-
about how many of them are there inside the hotel with Mr. Shinde. There is a document available where the signatures are also shown. So now we can't
they can
meddle
sign
too
on
much with
duress
the
also.
figure, except
They
for
can
those
sign
who are
under duress
independents.
also.
I agree, and except for the two who came out
They
of
can
the camp.
sign under
Yes.
duress also. They can sign under duress also.
Okay.
What did Ajit Pawar do when he joined hands with Devendra Fadnavis overnight? He came with a fake list. Now, these signatures, how does one know that they have signed out of their, out of their wish?
So you are saying that we cannot rule out the possibility of this breakaway faction returning to the fold, and Shinde
Majority of them will come back, and the majority of them will come back.
It's interesting to have these two completely different opinions, but let me go across to Rohit Kashyap, who's from the Shiv Sena. Rohit Kashyap जी, आपसे मैं ये भी जानना चाहूंगी कि इस वक्त उद्धव ठाकरे जी ने एक अपील किया पार्टी लीडर्स को कि वो वापस आ जाए. शिंदे जी ने उस पर जवाब भी दे दिया कि हम नहीं आ सकते सिर्फ इसलिए कि हमें जो है ये 2-2.5 साल में जिस तरह का एक्सपीरियंस हुआ है वो हमें मंजूर नहीं है. तो कुछ तो चेंज करना पड़ेगा जिससे वापस आने की नौबत पॉसिबिलिटी गुंजाइश रहेगी. आपको क्या लगता है ऐसा क्या क्या फैक्टर से वो वापस आएंगे, क्या कंडीशन में वो वापस आएंगे?
देखिए मैडम, वापसी की तो बात ये है कि क्या गतिविधि मुंबई महाराष्ट्र में चल रही है और कैसे क्या राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष जी का कहना है, उसके अकॉर्डिंग ही आगे जो भी फैसले हैं शिंदे साहब को भी लेने हैं और भी कई जितने भी मंत्रीगण हैं उनको भी लेने होंगे, विधायक हैं. अब कहा जाए वापसी की बात, देखिए वापसी तो कोई भी संगठन हो और कहा जाए कोई पार्टी हो, कोई भी अपने कार्यकर्ता को अलग नहीं करता है और ना ही कोई करना चाहता है. कोई भी किसी प्रकार से अगर कोई भी कहा जाए समस्या आन पड़ती है तो उसको भी कहा जाए कि कुछ दिन रोक के आगे कंटिन्यू कर दिया जाता है. अब ऐसे सिचुएशन है कि बनाना है आगे सरकार, और देखा जाए यूं कि महाराष्ट्र में चुनाव भी होने वाले हैं, बहुत जल्द ही चुनाव होने वाला है, तो आप ये भी देख सकती हैं. तो कहीं ना कहीं अन्य जो दल है, पार्टियां हैं, वो भी इसको भुनाने की कोशिश करेंगी और कहीं ना कहीं साथ आने की बात रहेगी. तो मुंबई की जो अगाड़ी सरकार है उसमें कहीं ना कहीं रोड़ा डालने का भी काम विपक्ष करेगा.
जी, लेकिन ओके, पार्टी की जो फ्यूचर है ये दाव पे लगी हुई है. ये हम सब देख रहे हैं जिस तरह से उद्धव ठाकरे ने अपील किया, उनको भी ये लगता है कि पार्टी में कई लोग भटक गए हैं और उनको ये उम्मीद है कि वो वापस आएंगे. लेकिन दैट ऑफ कोर्स रिमेन्स अ मैटर ऑफ स्पेकुलेशन वेदर the other MLAs. Mr. Shinde has spoken. There are panelists with me who believe that he's speaking for himself. The others may not be with him. Can they be really held under duress? Can they be made to sign under duress? Aashutosh Srivastav, do you see that, some of it is just grandstanding and posturing and not everything may come down to the numbers that are being claimed? Because these are, after all, claims and counterclaims.
We will have to see as to what happens, because now if somebody is claiming having support of so many number of MLAs, whether it is really truthful or not, that we'll have to see during the course of time. Because as of now, what we see that there is not the exact numbers which have been disclosed, and also that anti-defection laws, whether it will apply or not, that will also depend on the numbers. So whether it is 2/3 or less, or maybe more than 2/3 of the elected MLAs who are leaving the party or not leaving the party, that is something that is a lot of political issues will be going on for this coming 1-2 days. So a lot of things may change what we are seeing today. So that is a lot of things, we'll have to wait and find out as to in which direction it all goes towards. So far as the legality is concerned, so we know that if it is more than 2/3, nothing is going to happen to all these MLAs, and no, they cannot be disqualified in those kind of a situation. So obviously, they will also try their best that the number should be more than 2/3. And if it is not that, then obviously they would not like their candidatures to be disqualified by the speaker, and they have to opt for a fresh elections if that happens in that case. So a lot of things
In that case, the game will be open for everybody. What you're saying is, if this leads to a scenario where midterm polls will have to be called in, then again, of course, it will be again an open game. And it will be left to the people. The public will decide. Maybe that may be the fair solution to this, you think, Namit Saxena? Ki let's go back to the people, let the people decide, let's get out of all this mess and have the mandate all over again.
Looking at it, but I'll tell you another alternate which is possible. Another alternate which is possible is that the governor may call for president's rule saying that there is a constitutional crisis in the state. There is no mandate of the people right now. Therefore, the president of the country must govern it. But there is another issue in it as well. Now, the president's election is due on 18th of July. So that is another, that may create another tricky situation as such as well. So, we'll have to wait and watch as to what happens. But there are a lot of possibilities, a lot of probabilities. But again, it is,
the governor is indisposed, Namit Saxena. The governor is indisposed at the moment. So, under a situation of a constitutional crisis where the governor's role becomes critical. Okay, I am told Mr. Eknath Shinde is Sanjay Raut, I beg your pardon, is speaking. Let's cut across and listen in first.
आणि शेवटी सत्याचा विजय होईल अशा प्रकारची भूमिका आहे. दोन्ही पक्षाच्या प्रमुख नेत्यांनी येऊन महाविकास आघाडीला आणि उद्धव ठाकरे यांच्या संदर्भात ज्या सद्भावना व्यक्त केल्या, मग शरद पवार साहेब असतील, नाना पटोले असतील, अशोकराव चव्हाण असतील, बाळासाहेब थोरात असतील, सकाळी कमलनाथजी होते, आम्ही त्यांचे आभारी आहोत. कारण काय आहे? असं आहे की काही लोकांना वाटत असेल, त्यांनी आपल्या निवेदनात सांगितलेलं आहे की ते मातोश्रीवरती का राहायला चाललेले आहे. मातोश्री हे मूळ स्थान आहे शिवसेना प्रमुखांचं आणि शिवसेनेचं. नहीं, ऐसी कोई बात नहीं हो गई है. मैं आपको बताता हूँ, आप गलत न्यूज चला रहे हो. पण मुख्यमंत्री उद्धव ठाकरे जी है और रहेंगे. फ्लोर ऑफ द हाउस पर अगर मौका मिला तो हम बहुमत सिद्ध करके दिखाएंगे.
जर सरकार वाचवायचं असेल,
माननीय पवार साहेबांनी असा कोणताही सल्ला दिला नाही. किंबहुना ही लढाई आपण शेवटपर्यंत लढायची अशा प्रकारचं भूमिका माननीय शरद पवार साहेबांनी घेतलेली आहे.
Jay Rawat, they are saying that Uddhav Thackeray will continue to be the chief minister. Also saying Sharad Pawar did not advise to make Eknath Shinde as the CM. So he's dismissed some of the rumors that are floating right now that the proposal for CM's post to Shinde did not come from Pawar. He believes that Uddhav Thackeray will remain the chief minister, and if there is a floor test, Mr. Rawat says that their government will win the vote of no confidence. Namit Saxena ji, I was talking to you about the role of the governor in this, and the fact that in this rather difficult situation, you have the governor indisposed. So what happens if there is a floor test to be called, if somebody wants to stake claim to form government and believes that they have the numbers? What would be the possibility?
Somebody claims that that a floor test should happen, and I have the numbers with me, and the governor is bound to conduct a floor test after the a series of judgments by the Supreme Court, and everything will be clear on the floor test, because as one of the panelists also pointed out, that all these signatures etc. may be forged, may be false, may be under duress etc. So floor test is the real test which identifies which government will form the ruling establishment in the state. So the actual test is on the floor of the state assembly. So as Mr. Sanjay Raut also just pointed out, that if floor test happens, then we have the numbers, we'll prove our majority, and this is what Mr. Eknath Shinde is also claiming. So if it goes to the floor test, then it'll be a game of numbers again. Whosoever has the numbers will win.
Karan Verma, your thoughts on this, on the prospect of a floor test? First of all, do you see that possibility? And if it happens, which side would you be betting for?
Look, I'm betting for Uddhav Thackeray to go out as CM now, because either of the two scenarios, if they play out, even if they have 37 to escape the anti-defection laws, then of course it's lock, stock, barrel, game over. And even if they don't have, Uddhav Thackeray would still be there with a wafer-thin majority, or would perhaps need independents, the support of independents. Going by what we saw on 10th of June, when we saw the Rajya Sabha polls, and then when we saw the MLC polls just a couple of days back, one thing is clear, BJP has cracked the whip in its favor. 21 MLAs had cross-voted in that MLC election. So I see a possibility of a floor test, and I see Uddhav going down fighting, but going down nevertheless.
Okay, on that note, we'll have to leave it at that. Of course, a lot of it is in the realm of speculation. Even now, many believe that signatures can be taken in duress. Many believe the numbers are not real until you have a floor test. However, this entire suspense continues. It's a political pot boiler. And like someone in the program said, Maha Mutiny. That is what it really is. But we will keep our viewers updated and posted with all the latest developments. I would like to thank my guests this evening, Karan Verma, Namit Saxena, Aashutosh Srivastav, Sundar Balakrishnan and MC Abbas, also Rohit Kashyap, for joining us on the program.